Hi, my name is Misty Piekaar, and I'm an estate attorney in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the reason I'm here is because I'm part of Women's Power Networking. And you ask, what is Women's Power Networking? It is a group of women in the Raleigh area, also in North Carolina. There are chapters in Missouri and Pennsylvania, as well as different chapters all throughout North Carolina. And we are a group that basically helps other women to network their small businesses. So the purpose of this meeting here is to help women in the WPN chapters take and learn more about Meetup and what they can do in their businesses and how Meetup can grow their business. So the point of this presentation will first talk about the importance of social networking. Then I'll talk about which sites to use. And then after that, it'll actually talk about how to use meetup.com. So to begin with, everybody knows social media is very important. But just to give you some statistics, it's determined that 7 out of 10 companies will actually use social media as they take and market in 2014. Whereas only 53% will use mass email marketing, meaning, for example, newsletters or sending those email promos that say, buy one item, get one item for free. 16% will actually spend it on the market, learning about the demographics for the products. 14 will actually do product sampling, and I assume this means like free products or, for example, a type of seasonal product. For a good example would be watermelon for now. And then 9% will spend more on TV marketing. Compare that, though, to 70% who will be on social media, so 9% versus 70%. If you own a small business, you would think that you would need to go into social networking. As far as how much money will actually be spent, it was determined that in 2012, $4.7 billion was spent on social networking, compared to $11 billion in 2017. So it appears as though it's going to be an increase, and that the industry for social networking will take and be on the incline. The problem is that there's no set way on how to take and determine who is coming to your page and who is buying your product based upon social networking. So, for example, we do have the ability to see if somebody marks or clicks on one site, if they came from a certain site. But as far as following a Twitter or hashtag or following meetup.com, unless someone says, I found your business and this is the way I found your business, it's really difficult for a small business owner to know exactly which social networking sites are working and which social networking sites are not. But the most important thing to know is that social media and social networking is only one part of the equation. There is also in-print networking that needs to be done, one-on-one, FaceTime, and just in general, networking, marketing yourself, and creating a community presence. But if you're not networking your business on media sites and on social media, then obviously you're losing out. So now that we know that social networking is important, we need to know what sites are out there. And I'm sure a lot of people know a lot about a lot of these sites, but there's Facebook. And the problem with Facebook, people say, is that the demographics are changing. So what does that mean? It used to be that Facebook was very prevalent among, let's say, the 18 to 34 group, and now we've noticed that the younger generation is kind of moving away from Facebook. But again, it's free. There's Twitter. The problem with Twitter is that it's limited to a certain amount of characters, but almost everybody knows what hashtag is now, and to the point that I think the dictionary has actually added hashtag as a word in and of itself, and it's related towards Twitter. LinkedIn. The benefit to LinkedIn, a lot of people think, is that it has a lot of people who use the site who tend to be upper management. The disadvantage from a small business owner would be that there's not a lot of emails that can be sent, and so you really are limited to how much you can market your small business. There's Google+. Obviously, we're using Google+ right now. We're using a version of Hangouts, which is connected to Google+. Google+ is gaining a lot of momentum. I think one of the benefits to Google+ would definitely be the fact that it's associated with Google. And then there's Meetup, and that's what we'll be talking about. So Meetup, it came in existence around 2001. It was developed out of the New York crash, or the 2001 September 11th attacks. The most important thing to know is that there's 12 million users who use Meetup.com, and Meetup.com is MEETUP.com. And the most important thing is there's 9 million people who go every day to this site, and basically they just look for events, they look for things that they have an interest in, whether it be networking, whether it be something else, and they log onto the site, sign up to do that event, and they meet people, they network, they interact with others. So now that you know that social networking is very important to build your business, and you know that there are several sites, and you know that Meetup.com is one of the reasons that you can be successful, we're actually going to go to Meetup.com. So I'm going to take you to my page and explain to you and show to you several benefits of the page itself. So please bear with me while I share my screen. Give me one more second if you don't mind. Let's see. Okay. So now that you hopefully can see my screen, I want to show you what you're able to see. The most important thing is you need to log in. You take and use a username and then a password. And then you go to your profile page. So this is basically your profile page. And you would click on Profile. The most important thing to know is to have a profile page. If you don't have a profile page, then how are people going to know about you? In addition to that, definitely link up your networks. One reason that I decide not to is because of the fact that unfortunately I cannot network as much as other people can. The other thing to know is that you can change your photos. So here, for example, see where the photo is? The photo is of me, and if you can see, the most important thing about networking, I think, is to create an image. You see this photo is a nice photo of myself. Personally, I'm biased, but it's nothing that really steps out. There's no color, there's no image. You compare that to this photo here. This photo, you definitely can see it, and what I've always been told is that you need brightly colored photos. So if you're going to take and load a photo, remember to load one of yourself. So if you look here, this is actually just a photo of myself on my profile page, but then there are actually different chapters. So if you go, for example, to the Briar Creek Think Tank, which is where I'm a member, and then you go to my profile, you'll see that there's actually a bright colored photo of myself. And what I would suggest is several things. As a small business owner, you may want to take and have certain photos for certain types of events. For example, if you're doing something with plants or planting, you might want to wear something brightly green, like a green jacket. But at the same time, maybe you also deal with water because you deal with water and watering plants, so you might want to wear something that's blue or teal. In that case, you might want to go to different pages and add different photos. And that would just require you to go to each page and change your photo. What's most important, though, is to have a very important photo of yourself in which it's a screenshot of you, not of a dog, not of you and your children, but just of yourself, and you can see it. The other thing is to add very important things about yourself. So I'm going to go back to my profile page, because we're just talking about profile pages, And you need to add keywords. So I told you that I'm an estate attorney. So I have the words estate planning, elder law, guardianships, powers of attorney, last wills and testaments, and personal trust. Of course, these are key words that I use. So what you don't want to do is just to add just basic words, things that don't really apply to your industry. You want very specific wording. Also, remember to answer questions. So what do I mean by that? If you go to your actual different chapters, so again, I'm going to the WPN chapter that I belong to. If you go to your profile and view your profile, each chapter has questions that they pose. Know that this usually starts with an introduction, so you just say a little bit about yourself, 1 or 2 sentences. Then after that, you have to take and list what are the benefits to the networking, what makes you passionate about your product or service. And what I've noticed, because I use Meetup for several different reasons, one being network, is that of course if it's a networking site such as WPN, they're going to ask you networking questions. Likewise, if you go and you look at all the different chapters I belong to, and these again are all my different chapters, each one of these sites lists networking questions. So it's really important that you're specific, and if you're looking for meetup.com to benefit your business, that you take and join networking sites. Now, the other advantage, though, is Meetup also has personal sites. So the important thing about that is yeah, you can take and work, but you can also play. So, for example, when I go to Briar Creek Social Meetup Group, on my profile page, it'll also list that I'm an attorney and can list that I can help people, albeit that's not really why I'm on the site. Okay. And here's an example of what that page would look like. Again, my profile is the same as the other groups or other pages, but it's a little bit more playful in how I answer the questions. Okay. So going back to WPN, Briar Creek Think Tank. So now you know you need bright colored photos. You need to take and use key buzzwords. You need to say who you are, because putting that you're a mother or putting that you're from Raleigh doesn't really benefit your business, but putting what you're selling, what you're trying to market. Using an email tag when you take and send something. So for example, it might say Misty Piekaar, estate attorney, and then just adding photos of yourself being present on the site. Now you need to know about different things that you can add to these sites. So the very first thing is if you go to More and then to Polls, you can take and add different polls, which basically opens it up to other members, and you can see how many members are on this page. Here there's 243, and essentially it says, what kind of topics would you like to hear from the speakers? This is a very very old poll, but it hasn't been closed. But essentially 5 people said this is what to hear about. So imagine if you're about to give a 10-minute presentation to WPN chapter, and you think, well, I know of 5 different topics I could speak about. What do I really want to talk about? This is where you could open the poll and say, this are the topics that I'm thinking. What would you think? Again, you're trying to want to take and build an audience. So if, for example, 5 people who want to listen to one topic, that would be the topic you would take and cover. The other thing is after you're done presenting, I would use this as an effective means to take and critique how you were as a speaker. So for example, did you use eye contact? Were you very thorough in your presentation? Were visuals used? And you can open a poll here, again, just to talk about how was the presentation. Were there things that were covered that should have been more in-depth, or were there things that were covered that were too much in-depth? Also, in addition to just promoting yourself on polls, you can promote product or projects. So you know, going back to the idea of giving a 10-minute presentation as WPN chapters do, perhaps you have a new product that's coming out and you're a multi-level marketer. You can take and open a poll and say, would you like to learn more about this specific item if you knew it cleaned your skin, made you look healthy, and made you look 10 years younger? Again, send out an email and say, everybody, please go to this poll, let me know. And if so, that's a great way to know that your audience would be engaged and would be receptive to knowing more about the new product. You can also promote concepts. So here I use this in the context of the legal industry. What I know in the legal industry is that not a lot of people have a lot of estate planning documents. So it's a very small percentage of people. So I could just set up a quick poll here and say, you know, what type of information would you like to know about a healthcare power of attorney or a durable power of attorney? Or do you even have one? And that way I can understand more about the audience. Files. So now that you've added a poll, it's also important to add a file. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you go back to this More tab, which is probably one of the most important tabs, and click on File, you will see that there are multiple files that have been added by different people throughout time. And what's important here is to add stuff about your business and to add stuff about Women's Power Networking. So here it is, and this is very important. I think this is very funny. Eileen Batson is a member of ours, and I hope she's all right with me recognizing her. But here she added a file, May 8th, 2008. And the great thing about that is I know Eileen very well. I didn't even know that this was here, but just because she's on here, I'm going to take and click on it after the presentation because look at the date. It's been, what, 6 years and it's still there. And that is the very great thing about networking and social media is it always stays around. And here, I don't even know if this number is her number and if she's available, but this is a very great way if you are willing to take and put your information so that you can find her number. So what type of files would I load? I would load files after you've given a presentation. So you've given your 10-minute talk and you have a handout that you've given to everybody. Give it to the person who's the chapter organizer and say, hey, add this to the page. This is my handout. And what's very important is that you take and add your information, like contact information, at the very bottom. So what I usually do is how most Word documents have a header and a footer. In the footer, I add Piekaar Law Firm, I add my address, my name, and my phone number, in addition to my email address. That way, let's say somebody's just browsing this page, that someone of the 243 members decides, hey, I'm going to just look at this page, see what they have. They can take and find your contact information even though they did not go to the actual presentation themselves. The other thing is you might want to add, for example, like a special event or a flyer. So let's say you have an annual event that's very important to you, and this is your one and only event that is your money maker, if you will. You definitely could add a file here. You would just add it. And you have to usually, when you add a file, it has to be downloaded on the desktop, just as an FYI. So you would send it to your meetup organizer. They would download it onto their desktop, and they would just simply add it like they would add a document to an email. Maybe you want to take and add a mission or a goal of your business. I know that we have a Fayetteville chapter, so perhaps it's really important to add that you serve vets because you want people who are in Fayetteville to know that you recognize that you're in a military town. That would be something that as a mission statement you may want to add to this page. In addition to that, maybe blog post. This is something that I would do if I think I could get away with it, but again, I don't think I'm allowed to do it. But I do a blog. I know a lot of women in this group do blogging, and so I would literally just take and copy and paste the blog onto a Word document and then add it as a file. I know after blogging for 2 years, I probably have several blogs that I consider to be cream of the crop. So I would add those, and what I would tell you is don't add them all at one time. just add them when you think it's very relevant, or if there's a certain time of year where that concept or that idea would be very important to people. The next thing I'm going to show you is perks versus sponsorship. So if you look here, there are sponsors. So what happens here? In this situation, you would take and you would add a group of people or a business and say, this is who is sponsoring us. Now, no, there are different groups that do this different ways. I'm going to comment on several different chapters. So the way that our specific chapter does this is we say, Trolley Irish Pub is our sponsor. Why do we use them? Because even though they're not WPN members, they actually host us, and so we want to recognize them for allowing us to meet there, not charging us an amount to meet in their location. At the same time, we have membership perks. So here is a perk of our member, Kathy Warder. She's a Rodan and Fields marketer, and so here it says you get 10% off your first order. And usually how to redeem, you just have to mention this meetup ad. So this is a great way to take and bring people who are not members to the attention of your websites. Also, it's important to add all of your relevant contact information and keep that contact information up to date. So here, if you wanted to add it, you would take and send your meetup chapter organizer information about your product, send a photo. Know that the photo has to be in JPEG and it has to be very small in size. Then add just a kitschy line. Lots of times what we did in this chapter is we would add like the first page of the site, the website for the product, add the first 2 or 3 lines just to say a little bit about what the product is. Kathy did a great job here because she added her contact information. So she added her website. In addition to that, she added a phone number. I think it's important to add both. I know a lot of people use email only. But a lot of people do prefer to pick up the phone and call someone. What you put is determined by you. So you can either put a percentage off, a dollar amount off, or you could give a free service away. And then usually what people say is mention this meetup coupon. What I would suggest here is, in order to keep people engaged to see what type of perks you would offer as a small business owner, I would change this. And I would change this based upon, for example, if your business, let's say, for example, you're a florist and you're in WPN. Obviously, roses would be something that I would talk about in February, whereas maybe there's a different flower that's important towards the end of the year. That is a different perk that I would offer. So here, like I said, WPN Briar Creek Think Tank, they list the host for the meetings as the sponsor, and then the different members offer perks. I'm going to show you another different WPN meeting or different WPN chapter and show you what they do. So this is the WPN Crabtree chapter. Sorry, it's a tongueful. Here, Eileen Batson is part of that group, and they do their sponsors and their memberships a little different. So here, they have the host location, so Panera Bread is where they meet. They have a member who also is very active in the chapter, and so she is a sponsor. And then Women's Power Networking is also a sponsor. So it's really up to you, but what I would say is this. Whatever you like to do as a chapter, know that, you need to take and have some discretion in using it. So what do I mean by that? If you offered 50 perks, then, probably someone's going to look at those perks and say, why is this small business owner giving so many perks away? Or if you had 100 group sponsors, I think basically the person on the page would look at it and say, wow, there's just too much information. So again, however you do it is totally fine with you. What's most important as a small business owner is that you're listed here and your information can be seen. The next thing is build a following. So what do I mean by that? I'm actually going to use this page here. So when I say build a following, build community presence, what do I mean? Number one, RSVP to events. Here, Allison Rayfield RSVP'd yes for this specific event. How did she do that? She literally went to the event and clicked RSVP. And with RSVP, you can add people, and it's important for you to do this. It's important for you to RSVP for events, because if you don't, how are people going to see you? So I'm going to show you, again, these are all the chapters that I'm a member of. So let's say I RSVP'd for events here. Let's say I RSVP'd here. Let's say I said no to this event, and no to this event, and no to this event. What's important is that I'm getting out there and people can see me in all 5 chapters. Because here, even though this is different from these group of people, it's important to be seen in both groups. The other thing is you need to rate speakers. So let's say, for example, that Eileen Batson's going to speak at this event. After the event, you would literally come down to the bottom of the page, and there'll be a little button here, and I did not RSVP, so again, don't take my advice. Just know that I am telling you that it is important to RSVP for all events. And click on this little icon that would be here to rate the event. It's important that you rate the event after the event, just as it is important for you to RSVP, because people see you. People see that you're active. It's important for your page. So if, for example, these 6 women, they weren't really networking, they weren't really RSVPing, they weren't rating the event, then do you think other people would want to come to the chapter? Probably not. When people are not active, first, they can't be seen, but in addition to that, you're going to decrease the amount of women that you're going to be networking with because they're not going to be around. If you personally speak, you need to make sure those key buzzwords that we talked about earlier are in your title. And you need to take an ad at least about 1 month in advance. That way, you give time for people to take and research, look on your page, and see if they want to come. So now that you know that you need to take and add a profile, you need to add your photo, you need to take and find meetup groups that are similar to yours, you need to take and keep active on your pages and RSVP and rate events and use key buzzwords. The next thing you need to know is to locate like-minded groups and individuals. So what do I mean by that? Let me go back to the Broad Creek think tank. I'm going to take and locate a like-minded individual. So I'm here because I am trying to network, obviously, and I'm in the Broad Creek area. So I look down here and I say, okay, this person RSVP'd, this person RSVP'd. You can see that she's also a member of other meetup groups, and she looks like she's in the same chapter. I can actually take and click on her page and see, she's an organizer. And if I did not know this person, which I do, but if I did not, I could take and see what group she belongs to. I could see, for example, over here, she belongs to a lot of WPN groups. I could see her interest. She has an interest in online marketing. I could find that she has an interest in internet and technology, social media. So I could actually click on these groups and see maybe if she had joined any of these specific groups. That way I could be introduced to her. If I'm a little bit brave, I can actually even send her an email. And believe it or not, I've actually used this as kind of a tool to find people that I'm looking for. So let's say I'm trying to look for a real estate agent because one of my clients is trying to sell a home and I don't know of anyone specifically. I might try to find like a mortgage person or a realtor and see if they're not going to be able to help me, if they know somebody who can help me. One thing that she does that I did not do or can't do is she linked her network. So her Facebook page and her Twitter page is here. And that's something that I would really suggest everyone do if they're able to do it. So you locate a like-minded individual. Well, what about locating like-minded groups? So again, this is the WPN Briar Creek Think Tank page. I'm here. And if you go down on the left-hand side, it tells you what we're about. Business, strategy, networking, working women, wisdom, business network, professional development. But if you notice, if you just kind of browse over that word, then you see there are certain other meetups that are nearby. And you can either add interest or remove interest. Now note here it says remove interest for the actual page. I'm doing this because I'm an organizer of the page. You would actually see where you could remove your personal interest. So this is for the page themselves, but it's very important that you could see, for example, networking. You could see right here the different networking groups. So that's about the page itself. What if, for example, you wanted to see your interest? Let's go here. Here are all my interests: working women, business and social networking, Briar Creek, travel, wine. So it's important to not only take and know the interest of the pages that you go to, but also know what your interests are. A lot of people actually hide their interests from others, and a lot of people actually hide the fact that they belong to certain groups. If you wanted to find a meetup group, let's say, for example, I have a friend. He is a pastor, and he is trying to give pastoral care. Here, there's all different types of categories that you can click on. If you click on networking, obviously, or women, it's going to show women's groups. But let's say, for example, he wants to give pastoral care and charge like a small fee for it. I use this as an example because I wonder if there would be anything that would even be here. So yeah, actually there is, and that's very important for you to know. So again, you have to be very specific in the words that you use. Okay. So now you know, use a bright colored photo, email using a tagline, use key buzzwords, put who you are, in short questions or answer, add photos of yourself, promote yourself through polls, files, promote yourself through perks or sponsorships, be active and build a following and community presence by RSVPing for events, rating speakers, putting your information about your 10-minute presentation beforehand, networking with like-minded individuals and like-minded groups. The other thing you need to do is, when someone joins, welcome them. So what do I mean by that? You're trying to build a community presence. So you're trying to get your name out there as much as you can. So let's go to the Briar Creek Think Tank. If you scroll down here, Alexis joined. You literally can click on her name. You can see her interest. And you can put, for example, welcome to Briar Creek Think Tank. I'm going to put Women's Power Networking. I hit post. And there she has it. It's on her page. What's important though is, so my information, Misty Piekaar, is here, and Dave and Chris Kiefer can locate it. In addition to that, Diana Kay can locate it. And if you saw on my page, I had quite a few people. So obviously this is expanding the scope of the page that you're on. This means you're not only just on the WPN Briar Creek page, but you have the ability to go to her page, and then to every page Dave and Chris goes to, and then to every page Diana Kay goes to. The other thing I'm going to be talking about is everybody always says, hey, what about my emails? I get a lot of emails, and so I just wanted to talk about emails and notifications. If you click on my profile email and notifications, you can see you can list when you get emails. The only reason I add this is because I get a lot of emails from specific WPN members. So you can take and click and get a meetup announced every time you can get an email, sorry, every time there's a new meetup. When you change to a meetup, for example, you RSVP, then you can get an email. Comments on a meetup, you can get an email. This is one that I would really hesitate to do because you can get a lot of emails. You can take and get emails for ratings. There's also reminders about meetups. There's some that can be sent immediately, once per day, or I've clicked on don't send me any. However, in case you haven't noticed, I did click on, I do want emails about special announcements or announcements from organizers. So organizers tend to be the people who actually develop the page. So here it would be WPN. You would just click on submit, and then your email settings have been updated. One thing I will add is, let's say you have a specific industry and there's a topic, an indirect topic. So let's say you own a shoe store and you say, well, with shoes, people like to walk. So you decide that you're going to take and add a page to Meetup. So you create a page, and you can do that. No, the fee is $72 for 6 months. That's not a very high fee in my opinion. But what you're able to do is you are able to schedule meetups. Unfortunately, not everybody in WPN can take and schedule events. So if you wanted to give a presentation, you might have to go through your organizer. But here you would just schedule a meetup, which is an event where people could RSVP. You can email members. What's important here is that you email people on a regular basis. And one thing that I always do is, as an organizer, it's important that you not only email the people who say yes, but you email the people who say no, and you email the people who say, well, I haven't RSVP'd yet. So let's say, for example, the next seminar we have is Hangout 101. It's Thursday, July the 17th at 3:45. I might want to send a reminder email and RSVP to yes, no, and those who haven't RSVP'd. Again, it's important for you to do this because you're showing that you're active on the site. The more active you are on the site, the more people are going to see your business. So that is basically, all in all, what there is to know about Meetup. I'm sure there's other small things that I haven't covered, but the most important thing is be active, know that you need to use keywords, and know that you might want to go to different pages. If things don't work for you, then go to a different page. So I'm going to go back to Hangout on Air. Now, I see that there are viewers, so if anybody has any questions or comments, they're more than welcome to send those to me now. But like I said, just to reiterate, everything that I've said is basically be active. Know that you can use Meetup to grow your community presence. It's important to think about like topics. For me, as an estate attorney, I might want to go to money groups. I might want to go to elderly groups on Meetup. I might want to create a group for the elderly on Meetup. Why? Because powers of attorney wills tend to be used by those who are older. In addition to that, know that if you're going to use Meetup, you probably want to use other networking sites as well. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use Meetup.com. What I'm saying is Meetup.com is just one piece of the puzzle. So I don't see any really comments from anyone, but I want to thank everybody for their time, and I hope that everybody learned a lot. They learned how Meetup.com can help and increase their revenue, and thank you very much for watching. I'm going to stop the broadcast.